As much as I love beautiful antique primitive pieces from antique stores and high-end retailers, who can afford this? So in this video, we're gonna go to the Dollar Tree, grab some supplies, and see what we can come up with for a whole lot less. And afterwards, we're going to get into all things Dollar Tree Christmas. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Whether you love them or hate them, I think that pleated table lamps and pleated shades just in general are really having a resurgence in the interior design world. Starting off with the shade, based on the size of this specific shade, I needed to grab 2 packs of the craft fabric from the Dollar Tree. You could definitely choose a fabric that is more heavily patterned, but just keep in mind when you're adding the pleats, you want everything to line up really well. So going with something a little bit more simple, especially if this is your first time doing it, is always a good place to start. Started off by just pressing the fabric with an iron, and you'll want to keep that iron handy so that way when you go to cut your new pieces of fabric and apply them, you can add those creases and it can all just be really seamless. Started off by cutting each piece of fabric that you get from the Dollar Tree just right down the middle in half, so that way I was able to double my fabric and not waste anything. When it comes to how to cut your strips of fabric, if you are working with this style of a lampshade that's slightly tapered at the top, you also want to make sure that you're tapering your fabric as well, because otherwise, if you just cut them straight, which would be perfect for a drum shade, you're going to have too much fabric that won't have a place to go on the top rim of your shade. So you want to just ever so slightly angle them so that everything lines up nice and straight. Once you've cut out all of your pieces of fabric, then now comes time to again iron them in place. So just fold the fabric in half and then just press it with an iron. It doesn't matter that the edges aren't covered, because as you continue to apply the pieces of fabric, the other side will end up covering the unfinished side, so you won't be able to see it. When it comes to glue, I always believe less is more, so just a small dab of glue on the bottom to secure it in place, as well as the top, and then you can just remove the excess. Just continued applying those strips of fabric exactly in that way, and then once I basically got back to the place that I started, I just tried to make it look as seamless as possible and just tuck in that unfinished side underneath of the first strip that I laid down. With our pleated shade complete, now it's just time to work on our base. I've had this thrifted wall sconce sitting in my stash for a while, and it was just basically the perfect fit for our DIY pleated lampshade here. I'm going to use these light bulbs, so nothing is hardwired, although it looks like it is. Because I already had the light bulb, this project only cost me about $5, and I think it's the perfect addition to my kitchen space. I love the look of vintage bells, but not just for Christmas. Like, I love these from Shop Amber Interiors. I love a vintage cowbell that you'll see at antique stores, but often they're very expensive. I came across these bells at the Dollar Tree, and I've never seen them before, so of course I had to stock up. And all we're gonna do with these is just distress them. There are so many ways you can distress metal pieces from the Dollar Tree using simple acrylic paints. I've also seen them drop recently metallic paints. I just used paints that I already had, but to apply the paint, I did pick up a few makeup brushes from the Dollar Tree, just because I think, especially when you use any oil-based paints, like Rub and Buff has a somewhat oily consistency, using makeup brushes just gives you a better end result. Once you're happy with the level of distressing, you can tie jute rope to these, or I'm going to be placing them on these shepherd hooks that I picked up, I think a few years ago now, from the Target Dollar Spot, but something still just felt off with these. So I did go back in, decide to remove that center piece of each of the bells and add just some scrap wood that I distressed and then stained with some antiquing wax and just hot glued it to the original hanger, just to give it again that more primitive look. And if you love a vintage Christmas look as much as I do, before you put all that paint away, go ahead and grab yourself a couple packs of these bells from the Dollar Tree as well. Now price increased to $1.50 for 6 of these bells. I'm also just going to add the exact same mixture I did for the cowbells now to these. Again, just applying it with a makeup brush. I ended up doing 2 coats on these, and then it was just time now to decide how I was going to style them. So you actually don't need to hang them on anything. Placed on a bed of cedar or pine will give a really chic look in the end. just going to grab that bowl that I DIY'd also from the Dollar Tree. Some of you might remember, you just take some cement mix, 2 of these bowls here that you'll find in like the catering and party section of your Dollar Tree. Just going to press one into the other to create this mold here. Just going to then sand and distress it a bit, really staying in line with that primitive look that I'm really trying to achieve in some of my Christmas decorating. We'll talk more about Christmas later on in this video, but I did just want to give you guys a heads up that I will be doing a project similar to this using a different medium, using these molds here. So if you see these at your Dollar Tree and you want to follow along, make sure to grab a few of these. Now let's talk about where things can get really expensive, which is all of the primitive wood pieces. From benches to any wall decor, these things can add up really quickly. Now, of course, you're not going to find a beautiful primitive bench or riser at the Dollar Tree, but you will find these bamboo boards, which have now increased to $1.50 a piece. Now, I know this look isn't for everybody, but if you have a new build or if you have a lot of modern pieces in your space, it's so important to add pieces like this to give your space that character that it so desperately needs. So for this project, I grabbed 2 of the wood cutting boards from the Dollar Tree, as well as 2 scrap pieces of wood also from the Dollar Tree, so we're all in at $6. To start, I'm just going to attach both of the bamboo boards together with some wood glue, just pressing one on top of the other and clamping it in place. And despite it being a new, larger size, it's still pretty small. So I don't think I can really make a stool from the Dollar Tree, but maybe we can make a little primitive riser. Just took some quick measurements. Just want to keep in mind how big the top of our riser is going to be, just making sure that the legs aren't unusually too long or too short. Placed them about where I thought they should go, just traced that around so that way we will create the opening on both pieces of bamboo board, so that way the legs can show through from the top, because that is a very common thing that you will see, is that the legs of these benches or stools are actually visible from the top of the piece. So in order to create those openings, you could use anything, but I just chose to start with a drill that was a slightly larger size, so that way I could create bigger openings, so then I could take different tools to really carve out those sections for our legs to slide in through the bottom and be visible from the top. The key with creating this look is actually not to have it be super perfect and lined up, because if again you look at those pieces, there's a lot of imperfections, a lot of weathering to those pieces. So obviously there has to be some semblance of normalcy, but you want it to just feel really weathered and really aged. And I just did that with things that I have at my house, like flathead screwdrivers, a fork. I just used whatever I had on hand to really create those deep carvings that you'll see in really truly primitive pieces. I did that all throughout the top and the sides of the bamboo boards, as well as on the legs. Before assembling the riser together, I first just went in with some antiquing wax on a damp paper towel, primarily all around the sides and perimeter of the top of what will be our riser. Making sure to really press that wax in where the legs will be coming through, as well as just all around the sides, getting in those deep nooks and crannies will just overall add to the look we're trying to achieve. The first coat was with everything separate, then I assembled the stool together, and then again did the same thing, just focusing that darker color on the outside and the lightest color on the inside. Again, a totally buildable project. You could do a lot more distressing than I did or way less, completely up to you, but pieces that look just like this at antique stores cost a small fortune. So if you're working with a Dollar Tree budget, you can still achieve the look for a lot less. Another but more refined project I wanted to include in this video is to make some sort of a wall cabinet, a wall shelf. Whenever I'm thrifting, I tend to see a lot of wooden wall display shelves and cabinets, and we can definitely come up with something similar, smaller again, but similar for a lot less. So supplies. Most recently, I found these wooden wall shelves at the Dollar Tree with these brackets, as well as these canvases that are a 12 by 12, so I grabbed 2 of those. started off by just removing the canvas from that wooden frame and setting it off to the side because we will be using that in a future project in this video. Taking 2 of those wooden shelves that I found from the Dollar Tree, removing the brackets, and we're going to attach these wood pieces onto these frames here. So for the front, just want to make sure the staples are facing the back, and then we're going to place one of the wooden wall shelves directly behind it, and we're just going to attach those first with some wood glue. For the other wooden frame, exact same thing, just make sure the staples are facing the back, and then just flip the shelf upside down because that will now be the top before we connect all 4 pieces together. So basically we made something like a cube, and you could stop here if you're happy with this, just stain it and call it a day, but I wanted to give it a little bit more visual interest. I remember several years ago, Lone Fox did a beautiful IKEA project. I believe it was with the Billy bookcase, and he used pole wrap. So for the arch shape, I ended up grabbing 2 more of those shelves, and we're just going to create those arches as well, just adding a nail to the middle and tracing around to get that perfect arch shape. I just chose to use these because I knew they would be the same depth, and then to cut them out, I just used this jigsaw here, just following along that line as best as possible. If there were any imperfections, I then just sanded it down so everything was nice and flush. With all of our half circle pieces then cut out, it's just time now to add the wood glue so we can attach it to both the top and the bottom of our cube-like shelf. For little small projects like these, wood glue honestly does do the job. I just felt that I wanted to give it a little bit more support, so I just grabbed some scrap trim from my stash, attaching those pieces to both the top and the bottom, so then that way everything just has a nice solid hold because the material that we're going to be wrapping around the shelves is on the heavier side. As I mentioned earlier, I believe Lone Fox used a material called pole wrap, and for the project that he did, because it was a big and entire bookcase, he needed all of that material. But for little projects like these, you can get away with something like the top of a roll top desk or a bread box. I see these all the time at the thrift stores, and they're usually just a few dollars, and they make just the perfect additional detail to very basic wood pieces. So I just cut that material down to the appropriate size and wrapped it around both of the arches that we created, again with wood glue. Once I was happy with the positioning of that material, I then just taped it in place until the wood glue cured. Once everything was solidified and in place, I then just went over the entire thing just to unify everything with an acrylic paint called Territorial Beige. And then again, just wanting to give it a more aged look and give a more detail in the wood grain, went over that with some antiquing wax. I will link all of the supplies for all of the projects in the description box below if you are interested. The last thing I needed to figure out was how to hang this from the wall. So I just grabbed a picture that I wasn't actively using, grabbed the D-rings from that picture and applied it to this wall display shelf instead. Totally optional, but one small detail I did want to add was a rod to the bottom to be able to hang things from it. So from the Dollar Tree, I grabbed 2 of these wooden dowels. I'm just going to stain one of them with some antiquing wax. And then for this rod, I just ended up using old cabinet hardware. Just separated it from the wooden dowel that was the handle, and we're just going to then now screw those pieces into the bottom of the cabinet, and then now just slide our Dollar Tree dowel through those. Now, of course, it's not perfect, but for well under $15, I was able to create a piece of decor that can add a little bit of functionality, give me a little bit more space, but definitely on a budget. Which brings me now to wall decor, one of the most expensive categories on McGee & Co., Magnolia, Pottery Barn. And while I know, of course, yes, you can go to Target or Home Goods or Hobby Lobby and get a vintage inspired artwork piece, but so can everyone else. So that, to me, is not curation. So if you're like me and you like your things to be one of a kind and specific to you, it can be really helpful for you to make some of these pieces yourself, and it definitely doesn't have to cost a fortune. So even if you buy this Dollar Tree frame that maybe a lot of other people have as well, you can make it completely custom to your space by just doing a few of these tricks. While this Dollar Tree frame in shape is pretty good, I don't like its color. So again, I did the same application that I did for both of the bells, just applied it to this frame as well. It just gives it a more authentic brass look. Once the frame dries, it's time now just to decide on some artwork. So because this frame does not come with glass, I have found one hack is to just take canvas from any cheap canvas that you find at the Goodwill bins or at the Dollar Tree and just cut that down to your paper size. And then I personally just like to use Etsy. I try to support small businesses when I can. These downloads are right to your email, are super affordable. I think this one specifically I paid $1.49 for. And then now that I've printed it on an actual canvas paper, it looks so much more realistic instead of going to Walgreens and having it printed on your typical photo paper. Just added some spray adhesive to some cardboard and placed it inside of the frame. So for about $5, I was able to create some small scale artwork that no one else has, and it feels again like a more curated space. And those are great hacks for small scale artwork. I don't recommend buying the big frames from Dollar Tree. The quality is just not there. But what you should be buying from the Dollar Tree are the poster boards. You still get 2 for $1. That's cheaper than literally anywhere else. And what you're gonna do with that poster board is it's going to act as a mat. Whenever you're shopping online, or if you have the ability to go to some of these high-end stores in person, one thing you'll notice is that the picture is actually very small, but the mat is huge, which actually works out really great because you can do this on a super tight budget. Just go on Etsy, find a print, like I found this skeleton print inspired by something I had seen on McGee & Co. for way more than I think it needs to cost. So just went to Etsy, spent a few dollars, grabbed a few black mats from the Dollar Tree, and I was able to create this using a frame I already had for under $5. And after Halloween, of course, I can take the skeleton out, add some white poster board from the Dollar Tree with a Christmas inspired print from Etsy, and it can be a really easy way to switch up your space, but on a budget. Moving along now to decorative objects. I think this category, for some reason in decor, isn't received well because it's not functional or practical, but for me personally, when I'm styling my shelves, it gets so monotonous with the exact same category of things: vases, boxes, books, you get the idea. So when you have these pieces that are just kind of these one-off, unique pieces, it adds again that curation to your space. And I've noticed lately Dollar Tree, it's trying its hardest to really give us those pieces that mimic things that you'll see from high-end stores. But I think for me, the only thing I would truly purchase that I know I can flip into something that looks a little bit more high-end is the magnifying glass. So grabbing one magnifying glass from the Dollar Tree. Now for the base, for it to be a standing magnifying glass, I'm just going to use the base of an old trophy. We're gonna combine these two pieces together. So in order to do that, I just needed to grab a small piece out of a wood dowel, also from the Dollar Tree, drill a small hole into the bottom of the magnifying glass. We're just going to connect everything together with one screw. Just making sure that everything is nice and solid. I wouldn't glue this. I think that if you want it to be a lasting piece of decor, and this way you can really shape it and get it to be nice and sturdy and straight, just manipulating it a little bit. Now you could paint this brass to give it a more vintage inspired feel, but I've already painted so many other pieces in brass. I just wanted to leave this black. Grabbed a piece of jewelry that I wasn't using anymore, and I'm just going to wrap it around the top just to again give it that additional detail. Pop this on a stack of books, and again, it just adds another element to your shelf styling, and it can be done so affordably if you shop at the Dollar Tree. Now let's talk Christmas, and I would really say this is basically like the first wave. We'll see another after Halloween. So first impressions, the ornaments are still an amazing deal. Because I am doing a cluster tree this year, it's important for my tree to have a lot of the same ornaments, but to vary in size. I think I got about 80 ornaments for just $18, which you really can't beat. Other things that are a better deal, of course, the bottle brush trees are back. Definitely scoop those up if you see them at your Dollar Tree. Prices have increased to $1.50, and it's still more competitive than any other place. And for DIY purposes, as I mentioned earlier, these trays are a really great deal, and we're gonna make some beautiful decor in the coming weeks with these. Moving along now into the plus section, there's only a few things that I want to point out to look out for if you see them, or you are getting a good deal if you buy them at Dollar Tree. So the yard signs, if you're into that, definitely a better deal than anything you'll pay for at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. Also the nutcrackers. Now this depends on what you plan on doing with these. Now these are $7, but they are a really nice tall size. I do plan on turning these into etched brass nutcracker candle holders like we're seeing here from Magnolia. So because of that, I wanted to make sure that they would be able to withhold the weight of a candle. So these are a good deal if you plan on doing something similar. Last but not least, I want to make sure we talk about some gift giving ideas, even stocking stuffers, or just something to add into another gift. So now is the time really that Dollar Tree starts to get a lot more of these random one-off pieces that are great add-ons for any Christmas gift. Starting off with these slippers here. These are amazing for just $5. So yes, they're not Uggs, but they do give off a very similar feel, and they're a lot more affordable than anything you'll find on Amazon, even like Marshall's or TJ Maxx, and they are only $5 at the Dollar Tree. When it comes to gifting cosmetics, I try to stick to things that they could also find at Target or at Ulta. So this specific Dollar Tree had tons of Marie Claire makeup. I'm sure a lot of you remember the Marie Claire magazines growing up. So definitely, if you see these, I've tried these products myself and I can confirm that they are very good quality. Other things to look out for. Some of the Dollar Trees I've been in have these perfumes. They are $4 a piece. Now you guys know perfume can be very expensive. I'm not really familiar with this brand, so I always like to test things out if I plan on giving it as a gift that I actually have tried it and like it myself. And if I don't do that, I at least like to do a price comp online and check the reviews. So for example, this Onyx Bubble Bath, first of all, the packaging is so cute. And then if you go online, you can see that, in fact, $125 for that product is a very good deal, and it has very good reviews. And again, of course, maybe not getting the entire gift at Dollar Tree, that would be a little bit tricky, but to just get those add-on pieces. For example, this Hear Me Raw, the detoxifier, when I looked at it online, this was actually a product sold at Fred Segal, which, if you know, Fred Segal is a luxury brand. They basically have only moved to online at this point. I think there's one store in Las Vegas still, but the fact that it showed up at Dollar Tree is a very good thing. So this is what I mean by an add-on. So I wanted to gift my brother a really great travel situation because he'll be going to France. So I found this book bag at my local thrift shop for just $15. It retails for $150. I also like to add in a luxury textile. I never pass on anything that is 100% linen, 100% silk, or also 100% cashmere. Found this one here that is 100% cashmere scarf from Nordstrom's originally, did a price comp. These are super expensive. So the fact that I was able to find it for under $1 is a major savings. And then again, going back to Dollar Tree, just adding in this detoxifier that is from a luxury brand, but at that beautiful $1.25 price point, is the perfect addition. I do plan on making my brother a case for his passport out of leather, so that will be coming in an upcoming video, but so far I've spent well under $20 for this gift, and had I bought it retail at those stores, it would be over $200. We'll get more into gift giving. I do one of these videos every year and you guys seem to really enjoy it. I did just want to point out some of those really great items at the Dollar Tree so that if you do come across them, you don't miss them. With all that being said, that really wraps it up for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this maybe opened your eyes a little bit, that yes, Dollar Tree items don't necessarily give you that beautiful antique primitive look to start, but you can create beautiful pieces using Dollar Tree items if you're on a budget. With all that being said, I hope everybody has a fantastic week, and I will see you back here next Sunday. Bye for now.